Hello everyone, it's a pleasure to give you again a warm welcome to my channel on YouTube. With this, I start the second part of the presentation about architecture. And I start showing you pictures of some of great masters of architecture. Beginning with Igneous and Callicrates, famous architects of ancient Greece, authors of famous Parthenon, which located in Athens. One of Greek Renaissance architects was Filippo Brunelleschi, author of Great Dome of the Cathedral Saint Mary of the Flowers, located in Florence, in Italy. In addition of Brunelleschi is also Michelangelo Buonarroti, popularly known as Michelangelo, who was the bridge between Renaissance and Baroque. The most famous architect of Baroque, Gian Lorenzo Bernini, who designed the current St. Peter's Square in Vatican City. Is also Claude Nicolas Ledoux, who was the most notorious architect of Age of Enlightenment. Sir Charles Barry was the face of historicism of revival movement in Europe. In 13th century, one of modern movement faces was Frank Wright, who designed the following work, as I explained in the last slide of first part. A master of contemporary architecture is the British Sir Norman Foster, and of course, its most famous architect of the time, the Danish Bjarke Ingels. With this slide from Western architecture, I pass to speak you about architecture in Colombia. As you know, Colombian architecture has had many influences and demonstrations, mainly by Spanish architecture, during the colonization period in Colombia. Colombian architecture is divided into periods of indigenous architecture, colonial, religious, and military exactly, of 20th century, Republican, between 1880 and 1930, architecture of transition between 1930 and 1945, modern movement between 1945 and 1970, and contemporary architecture from 70 to present day. As shown in this conceptual diagram, architecture has its origins with pre-Columbian architecture, which just goes back to indigenous period before arrival of the conquistadors. Colonial architecture, as I had told you, was marked by its colonial status with a subsistence economy and continued constructive and typological parameters of the European metropolis, adapted to local conditions and its function in a different medium. Republican architecture dating from early 13th century, where significant turns in trends of art and architecture, teaching the use of classical styles and enormous potential for expressing new expression and soul forms, seeing industrialization and new technologies. Architecture of transition, as this name implies, was the bridge between historical and modern. Arguably, it was Colombian Art Deco trend. Carlos Martinez and Diego Roda were its pioneers. Between 50s and 70s, modern movements set foot in Colombia, following the Corbusier's visit, which influenced market in prolific and innovative art production. From the 80s until today, a new generation has changed the architecture's face as we know it today. This is the case of contemporary architecture. Here, as you can contemplate, these are some of the architecture icons that have stood to the world by Colombia. Beginning with Antonio de Arevalo y Esteban, famous architect of colonial period. He is credited with reinforcement of San Felipe de Barajas Castle, made by him between 1762 and 1798, and the Bovidas of Santa Clara. Both buildings are located in the city of Cartagena de Indias. Two symbols of Republican architecture are Heredia Theater, designed in 1911 by Luis Felipe Jasper Franco, and is also located in Cartagena de Indias. and remodeling of San Ignacio building, made by 1908 and 1938 by Horacio Marino Rodriguez Marquez, and is located in the city of Medellin. Architecture of transition is represented by the Garcia building, designed in 1938 by Cuban architect Manuel Carrera, and is located in the city of Barranquilla. And an icon of modern architecture is Avienque building, designed between 1963 and 1969 by architect Germán Samper Neco, and is located in the city of Bogotá, D.C. It could be considered master of modern architecture who can now identity in his work. I'm talking about Rogelio Salmona, whose works are Park Torres Building or Torres del Parque, designed between 1965 and 1970, located in Bogotá, D.C. Illustrated House or Casa de los Huéspedes Ilustres, designed between 1978 and 1981, located in Cartagena de Indias. And his last work, Virgilio Barco Library, which was designed in 2001, 6 years before his death in 2007, and is also located in Bogotá. In the bottom row, as I told before, a new generation of architects has changed its face with works like EPM Library, designed in 2005 by architect Juan Felipe Uribe de Bedut, and is located in the city of Medellin. Trade Chamber Building of Bogotá, Chirpinero headquarters, designed in 2009 by architect Daniel Bonilla. And of course, Giancarlo Massanti Sierra and Plan B Architects designed also in Medellin export scenarios for South American Games in 2010. In this slide, I showed you some of Masters of Architecture in Colombia, like her, Luis Felipe Jasper Franco, Leopold Siegfried Roder, Deacon Castro, Rogelio Salmona, whose work I told you previously, Germán Samper Neco, Simón Vélez, Daniel Bonilla, and of course, Giancarlo Massanti. Finally, when designing a building, it will be taking into account general concepts and principles of composition. On one hand, general concepts comprise analogies with nature and other projects, metaphors either formal or with other ideas, formal, vernacular inspirations, historical terms, real events to constructed system, religious and or mythological implications, contextual adapting, and political and socioeconomic terms. On the other hand, there are principles of composition, which are made up of unity, when this part are presented as a whole. Repeat, when an element is repeated more than once. Read, when more than one repetition is presented in succession. Movement, then the phrase difference is used either in size, color, or shape by position of these elements. Directionality is a movement toward to a desired point of interest. Modulation would be repeated equal elements. Symmetry, which is associated with geometric transformations, such as rotations, translations, additions, and bilateral symmetries. Contrast, that is based on marked differences in ownership. An example of this expression with antonyms adjectives applied to a design. Equilibrium, balance between various things into design. And of course, order, which relates elements with each another by established principles. With this slide, I conclude this presentation about architecture. Well, this presentation was about architecture, its origins, evolution, and how it is conceived today. I hope you liked it. I cordially invite you to visit my blog, follow me on social networks, and subscribe to the channel. The information is right at the bottom of the screen. Thank you for your company and see you at next opportunity. Goodbye.